The phone rang in the middle of the night. A single sharp tone cut through the darkness. I opened my eyes slowly, my room still soaked in shadows. The ceiling fan hummed with a dry, uneven rhythm. Cold air crawled across my skin as I reached for the phone. The screen glowed with an unfamiliar number. The digits pulsed like they were alive. My thumb hesitated above the screen. My heartbeat thumped heavily in my ears. I felt a strange pressure in the air, as if the room was holding its breath. I answered the call. For a moment, nothing happened. Only a thin static whispered into my ear. The kind of static that feels like someone is trying to speak from underwater. Then I heard my own voice. Older, rougher, weighted by years I had not lived yet. Listen very carefully, the voice said. Every syllable vibrated with urgency. My mouth went dry. My fingers trembled around the phone. I tried to speak, but my throat locked. The voice continued before I could force out a sound. There is no time to explain everything, it said. You must leave your room right now. My eyes slid instinctively to the door. Nothing moved. Nothing seemed out of place. Yet a cold tightness wrapped itself around my ribs. Why? I managed to whisper. My voice sounded small and thin compared to the one on the call. The older version of my voice exhaled slowly. The breath echoed through the receiver, heavy and worn. You do not understand the danger yet, it said. But you will in a moment. I sat up, the mattress creaking beneath me. The shadows seemed thicker now. Stranger. The corners of the room looked deeper than they should. As if they were stretching. As if something inside them was shifting. A faint sound rose behind me. A soft scrape across the wooden floor. My shoulder muscles tightened instantly. I turned, but the darkness swallowed everything past my bed. The voice on the phone grew sharper. Do not turn around, it said. Just walk to the door. Walk slowly. My breath quickened. Sweat prickled across my forehead. The feeling of being watched pressed harder against my back. Like warm breath brushing the nape of my neck. Who is behind me? I asked, barely able to push the words out. Silence filled the line for 3 long seconds. Then the older version of me answered with chilling calmness. It is not someone, the voice said. It is what you became after you ignored my warning the first time. My stomach dropped. My legs refused to move. The scraping sound came again, louder this time. Closer. The air behind me thickened, heavy enough to feel on my skin. The voice in the phone spoke again, this time a harsh whisper. If you want to survive, you must not look at it. My heart hammered wildly. My fingers gripped the phone like it was the only solid thing left in the world. The floorboard behind me groaned, as if something enormous had shifted its weight. I swallowed hard. My throat burned. My mind raced with a dozen questions, but none of them seemed to matter. Only one thought remained clear. I had answered a call from my future self. And whatever stood behind me now was the reason that call existed at all. I placed my foot on the cold floor. The air around me tightened, as if the darkness itself was reacting. And then I heard the voice on the phone again. Softer, more desperate. Move, right now. And with that single command, everything in the room shifted at once. The shadows, the air, the presence behind me. As if they all knew what I was about to do next, the room felt alive around me. The air pulsed with a heavy, unnatural weight. Every breath I took felt borrowed. My shoulders stiffened as the presence behind me shifted again. The wooden floor groaned softly, as if supporting something tall, thin, and unbearably heavy. I placed my second foot on the ground. The cold from the tiles climbed up my legs like creeping frost. The phone pressed against my ear trembled with my shaking hand. My future voice grew quieter, but sharper, as if speaking through clenched teeth. Do not react to the sound, it said. Focus only on the door. Reach for the handle. My eyes locked on the faint outline of the door. The metal handle glimmered in the dim blue light coming from the street outside. It felt impossibly far away, even though it was only a few steps. The presence behind me inhaled. A slow, deep breath that dragged through the room like a cold wind. The sound scraped against my nerves. My body froze, every part of me begging to turn and see what stood there. But the voice on the phone returned, urgent and shaking. If you look at it, everything ends for you in this timeline. My throat tightened. Sweat slid down my back. The darkness behind me seemed to stretch forward, reaching for my feet. I forced myself to step again. A low, rumbling sound rose behind me. Not a growl, not a human sound, something else entirely, something that should not exist in any world where I was still alive. The floor vibrated beneath my toes. I clutched the phone tighter and moved quicker. The door felt closer now, close enough to give me hope. But hope vanished when another voice emerged from the darkness behind me. A voice that sounded like mine, but twisted, warped, strained through pain and hunger. "Do not leave," it whispered. The sound dragged through the room like a broken blade across glass. I felt the breath of the creature brush the back of my neck. Hot, moist, wrong. My stomach lurched. My knees nearly buckled. The phone crackled violently in my ear. My future self shouted, "Do not listen to it. It is not you. It is the consequence of your choices." My hand shot forward and brushed the door. Relief surged through me, bright and blinding. But before I could wrap my fingers around the handle, something cold grazed my ankle. Long fingers, sharp fingers, fingers that did not belong to anything human. I gasped and stumbled forward. My shoulder slammed into the door. Pain shot up my arm, but I did not dare cry out. The creature behind me exhaled again. This time the breath carried a faint rattling sound, like bones shaking in a container. The air grew colder. The shadows darkened. My vision blurred for a moment as fear squeezed my chest. My future self spoke again, but now the voice sounded strained and distant. As if something was interfering with the call. As if the creature behind me was affecting time itself. "You must step through the doorway," the voice said. "Once you do that, everything will reset for a brief moment." I forced my hand toward the handle again. My fingers curled around the cool metal. The creature's fingers tightened around my ankle, pulling ever so slightly. Not enough to drag me, but enough to warn me. "Do not leave," it whispered again. This time the whisper sounded almost pleading, almost familiar, as if some part of it remembered being me. Tears burned in my eyes. My heart thundered so hard that I felt each beat in my throat. The creature's grip grew stronger. The phone's static screamed in my ear. "Move now," my future self said. "Move before it fully wakes." Another breath behind me, longer, heavier. The presence grew taller, rising above me like a towering shadow ready to swallow the room. I twisted the door handle. The sound of the latch clicking open echoed like thunder in the stillness. The creature hissed softly, a sound that sent a burning chill down my spine. I pulled the door open. Light from the hallway poured into the room, washing over my feet and breaking the darkness. The creature's grip loosened, as if the light stung it. It recoiled slightly, dragging its fingers back across the floor with a slow, scraping sound. But it did not retreat entirely. It stayed close, too close, waiting, watching, breathing with a slow, unnatural patience. I stepped into the hallway. My body quivered from head to toe. The phone trembled against my ear. The air grew lighter, but the fear inside me did not fade. The voice of my future self returned, calmer now. But I could hear exhaustion in it. And something else. Something that sounded like regret. "This is only the beginning," it said. "What comes next depends on whether you are brave enough to listen further." The line crackled again. The hallway flickered as if the lights were reacting to the call. My breath caught in my chest. Because even here, outside the room, I could still hear the creature behind the door. Its whisper slid under the crack at the bottom. Soft, patient, waiting for me to return. And the phone in my hand buzzed again. A second call. From the same number. From my future self. And I had no idea whether answering it would save me. Or destroy me faster. The phone vibrated in my hand again. The screen glowed with the same strange number. The same cold light that had pulled me from sleep. I stood in the hallway, breathing hard, staring at the call that waited for me. The door behind me creaked softly, as if the darkness inside the room shifted its weight. I felt the creature's presence pressing against the wood. Silent, attentive, hungry. My future self's last words echoed through my mind. "This is only the beginning." My thumb hovered over the screen. Fear wrapped around me like a tight blanket, but the hallway lights flickered again. A low hum swelled in the air, as if time itself was trembling. I answered the call. This time, the voice on the line was calm, steady, older, but no longer frantic. You made the right choice, it said. Now you must listen carefully, because you must understand why all of this happened. I swallowed, my throat dry from the panic. What is that thing? I asked. My voice trembled, but the question forced itself out. A long pause followed. The soft static on the line crackled like distant rain. When the voice finally returned, it felt heavier, soaked in sorrow. That creature is a version of you who refused every warning, it said. It is what forms when fear controls every decision you make. I felt my knees weaken. My hand tightened around the phone. The creature behind the door shifted again, as if reacting to its own description. My future self continued. You faced your fear tonight. That stopped the transformation, but the timeline where that creature exists still presses against yours. It wants you to return so it can complete what you almost became. The lights hummed louder. A faint vibration moved through the hallway floor. My chest tightened. What do I do now? I asked. The voice exhaled softly, as if preparing to release a truth it wished I never needed to hear. You must not go back into that room, it said. You must walk away, step by step, until you reach the front door. I turned my head slowly. The long hallway stretched ahead of me, dim and quiet. The exit door at the far end glowed faintly with outdoor light. And then, I whispered, then you must leave the house, the voice said. Once you cross the threshold, the timeline resets fully. The creature will cease to exist. You will never face this night again. Everything will return to the path that leads you to the life I am living. For the first time, hope entered the voice. A soft, warm hope that pushed gently against my fear. I took a step down the hallway. The wooden floor creaked beneath my weight. Behind me, the creature scraped its claws against the door, slow and deliberate. Almost a warning, almost a plea, but I did not turn back. I walked, one step, then another. Each movement felt like wading through the thick weight of the past. My future self's voice grew clearer as I approached the front door. You must trust that you are stronger than the version that fell. You must trust that the path in front of you is the one that survives. I reached for the metal handle of the front door. My hand hovered above it, trembling. Cold air seeped through the cracks, brushing against my fingers like a guiding touch. Behind me, the creature let out a final whisper. Soft, broken, familiar. Do not leave me alone. My chest ached at the sound. For a moment, I could feel the echo of its loneliness. Its trapped existence. Its pain. But the voice on the phone spoke with gentle firmness. Do not answer it. That part of you only survives through fear. You must not look back. I closed my eyes. I drew in a deep breath. And I pushed the door open. Bright morning air rushed in, washing over me with a warmth that felt unreal after the cold darkness behind me. A single beam of sunlight touched my face like a promise. As I stepped out, the phone crackled with a soft tone. A final message. You did it, my future self said. I will see you in the life you were meant to live. The call ended. The line went silent. The house behind me stood still and dark. When I turned to look, the front door had quietly swung shut. The windows reflected nothing but early morning light. And the room where the creature waited was gone. Erased. Reset. As if it had never existed. I stood in the silent morning, breathing the cold air, feeling the world settle back into its rightful shape. The fear faded slowly, replaced by a strange, peaceful clarity. I took my first step down the path away from the house. The sky brightened above me, and the weight of the night finally lifted. For the first time, I felt the future waiting for me. Instead of reaching back to haunt me,